Mancave, this is Bob from the Bob's N-Scale Mancave. We're on part 4 of how to build a floating shelf railroad. And today we're going to be putting in some foam pieces onto the shelf. So what I have here is a section of 2-inch pink foam, and this is going to be on top of the layer of my shelf. There's going to be another small sections or pieces of 2-inch foam underneath with some gaps in there, so I can put in some wiring and some other accessories underneath that 2-inch piece. So you'll be able to get underneath if you have to get underneath. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting a 22-inch wide piece, which will go from the wall all the way out to the edge of the board, and I'm going to keep the flattest side, the factory side that's nice and flush. That's going to be to the outside of the shelf, so I can put a fascia over the front of that, so it'll hook right to it and look nice and clean. The back side, I don't care if it's too bad, I can always fill that in and no one's really going to see that. It can be covered up with other scenery. So in order to do it, I drew my line, kind of scored it with a razor knife, and then I purchased a hot knife. Got this at Harbor Freight. It's like 30 some bucks, and it cuts pretty well. It does make a wide cut, so you got to be careful and follow on the outside of your line that you want to make, and keep it as straight as possible. Use a straight edge if you can, and things should work out. Okay, I'm warming up this hot knife, and I'm not going to cut right on the line. I'm going to cut a little bit off the edge of the line, because this hot knife will melt the foam and might go and make my foam a little bit narrower than 22 inches. So I move this piece of board over the line just a little bit, and I'm going to go right down that line, off the edge a little bit. It goes right through like butter. Just like that. You got sort of a cut there. It's about a 1/4 inch wide gap. That's why I want to go on this side of that line. It's almost right on the line. It's a little bit farther over, but I can scrape that off a little bit if I need to, so adjust as needed. So I got a little bit of working room to work with. Well, I'm going to continue cutting this piece off, and we'll take it from there. Okay, the piece is now cut apart and removed. I can set this off to the side. Now I've got a piece that'll fit on the right hand side of my layout. It'll go up near the helix, up against the helix. And what I'm going to do, since I only need 4 inches total, I don't need that extra 3/4 inch on top, because where I mounted the helix actually was right at 4 inches. So this 2-inch piece will fit right perfectly inside that space and be the right height for track just to start rolling across onto the foam. So the top of the brackets are only about 3.5 inches, so I can cut a little notch in this foam where the brackets are going to go, and it'll sit down inside that bracket and won't shift back and forth, and it'll be a nice fit for it. Then I just have to also carve out where other pieces of brackets are, or the wood is, to make it fit in there just nice and snug. So I'm going to work on that and see how it turns out. Something you should do after you melt this foam is clean off this melted foam pieces. You got a lot of strings and stuff like that that probably, are there. and so you probably want to clean those off. I use a wire brush, scrape it off, make it a little bit smoother and less ugly looking. As you can see, I cut some slots in here for the white shelving brackets to fit, because this is going to sit down on top of those, and so I got to make it the right height. So let's go take a look and see how it fits. Okay, as you can see, I have these brackets, and I cut some grooves in there with the hot knife, and so it squishes down as far as it needs to, and so I got some flexibility in there. I may have to put some shims in there or something like that to raise it up just a little bit if I need to, but I have a lot of working room there. And as you can see, you can put some more foam back in there, whatever you need to brace it up. I'm going to at least have a channel in there, probably close toward the front of this, so probably right behind the screws. I'll have a space there for the wiring and everything else that I may need to put in here. From the helix, in the corner, and all the way around the corner to the wall. Well, as you can see, this board is now fitting up nice and snug on top here. I have a gap down here for another 2 inches of foam, but it's not going to be full solid foam. It's going to be little pieces of foam spread out. I'm going to have a solid piece right up along the edge, and that's where I'm going to have the fascia attached to this whole front of the shelf. And that way I can get underneath this board if I need to, you know, run wires and do some electrical work and all sorts of other things I need to get into that space for. So this will remain loose as much as possible until I start getting track down. I'm going to have to start figuring out where my track plan is going to go and all those other little things that I probably need to know before I get this all secured down. So basically that's all it's really going to be. It's going to fit in there just nice. I also put in the other side as well. It's not complete all the way through the closet yet. That's another stage of the whole process, but I have the two big main pieces together. I also took and put a dowel rod through the two halves to kind of keep them level, because we like to flex around and don't stay in where you want them to. So put a dowel in there. You can also put those little tiny pointy sticks, like shish kebab sticks or something like that, and you can stick them down in there with some glue and hold them in place when you do a more permanent mounting, basically. Many trips back and forth between the garage and the man cave, making sure I got the grooves in the right places and all the pieces fit and were not being pushed up somewhere else. Now I also shaved down some of the shelving brackets so they weren't sticking up so high, and that made things a lot easier. So, well, Mancavians, this has been part 4 of how to build a floating shelf railroad, and in this episode we showed how to put foam on top of your shelf, and this will be the top layer of your shelf, so basically look hidden once we get it all completely finished. You won't see any of the brackets because it'll be underneath the foam. I showed you how to cut the foam, how to make your gouges using a hot knife, and other tricks and traps that you may run into. So if you like what you saw here today, go ahead and click subscribe. and like or follow all my pages and Twitter accounts and yada 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 in the links down below in the comment section. So, as always, Mancavians, happy model railroading, and stay off the tracks. Bye.